Okay, we are live. This is an experiment. Welcome to the podcast. Okay, we're going to start now. I'm going to record this and have a couple people in the waiting room. So, welcome to the podcast today. Today is a special episode. This is a call-in podcast where I have put a call out to anybody who would like to join this podcast. The video then is being broadcast currently at this moment live on YouTube. And I have people in a waiting room who want to come and join this podcast. I have assigned a topic for this podcast, and as part of my podcast for Yoga Strong, I define yoga as the practice of paying attention, and the ways that shows up in so many different ways in our lives. So it gives us an opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. And what are we paying attention to? And the strength being, we're not just here to practice yoga to find strength on our mat, but how do we find strength in all the different parts of our lives? And in those sorts of lines, then thinking about what in our lives are we learning from, and what are the things that we're paying attention to that we're really grateful for? And starting off this call-in podcast then saying, I want to know what is good and what is good learning. And very much with the disclaimer that I'm not saying that every single thing in our life we should put as like, well, it's going to be good something, right? Like some things are just going to be shitty. Like there are things that are like, wow, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I wish that this didn't happen to me. And I don't really want to even like label the word good on this thing. And so I'm in no way saying that every single experience in our life can be either in the category of good or good learning. However, I think thinking of opportunities in our life or of situations and experiences in our life as things that we can learn from gives us an ability to maybe change our perspective and to look at things a little bit broader and to say, okay, so maybe a thing did happen. Maybe I did have an experience that I wouldn't have chosen, but is here now. And what am I going to do with that now? Because regardless of how wonderful or how terrible an experience is, we have the opportunity to move forward with that. And like the only thing constant is change. And so what are we going to do with that now? So each of the guests that I'm going to bring on today, the way this is going to work is I'm here. I'm going to be the constant. There's a leaf blower in my background right now, so if you can hear that, and somebody will join me. I'll invite somebody in from the Zoom waiting room, and there's random people who have signed up to join me, and I don't know who all of them are, and so somebody will join me just one at a time, and then they will leave, and then another person will join me, and we'll talk for a bit about their good moments, about right now currently what is good and good learning for them. And let this leaf blower go by. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this and being a part of this experiment. This was one of those shower thoughts that I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk to some more people and explore what it would be like to have a podcast with an unplanned sort of experience of guests. So with that, let's admit our first person. Our first guest here with us today is going to be Tara. Hello, Tara.
Hello. I am wandering outside. I'm going to get away from the cars.
Are you on a walk right now?
I'm on a walk run. I'm headed to one of my favorite places in Asheville called Beaver Lake. And it's this gorgeous lake that you can see mountains and water at the same time. And I
Oh
just
my
found a little
gosh.
grassy knoll. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so you're headed to Beaver Lake.
Mhm.
And is this a common place that you go then, or like not common, but a place you go often?
Yes, this is one of my wild places to wander where lots of answers
Mm.
find me the moment I stop trying to find them. Yeah.
That's usually how it works.
And I'm loving the jungle that I'm seeing behind you.
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite room. So yeah.
Gorgeous. Well, thank you for this invitation.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying yes. I this is just so fun to me. I'm like, I just want to talk to some more people.
Well, you touch so many lives by the people that you speak to every single day, including me, Bonnie.
Mm, mm, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
So tell me what in thinking about this lake then that you're going to today, like is there an answer that you're trying to find right now? Or you're just like, no, I'm just going because I like the call. Like, because I understand, like sometimes I'm like, I need to go to the ocean. Like that's when
Right?
I feel it sometimes. And I don't necessarily have, I don't know, something that I'm looking for, but I can feel it in me that I need to
Yes.
go. So what is it right now for you?
Honestly, that's a really great question. And I would say today, I was literally just talking to my mom about how full I feel right now. So I feel that this trip is to integrate, to process, to digest, right? And with digestion also comes elimination. So also maybe some release. I don't know what that is, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm at this place right now in this moment of feeling so incredibly full.
Yeah.
So, yes, integration, digestion, and release.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks
So
for asking.
in your is this and are you taking, I just want to like get more clarity like on the word
Sure.
full. So is this
Mhm.
the word full as in like over full, or as like, are you like full that you need to make space,
That's
or
a great
full,
question.
or full that you're like, wow, like I'm just I'm brimming, like and like is this like the part of the full where you need to say no to things, or the part of the full that you're like, wow, I have all the yeses that I want?
Right, right. I really appreciate that question because I feel that that's more of a recent being able to discern that within my body, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
is a full of a result of what I've been leaning into with your question for what has been good. What is a practice that's been good? And one of my practices has been really getting in touch with fear, right? And using this acronym, facing everything and rising, right? So you opened up our conversation. Thanks for saying yes. I mean, I saw your post and I was like, uh-oh, I have to do this. This is making me nervous. This means I have to do it, right? So it's like saying yes, especially not saying yes to everyone, because saying yes to everything is saying no to yourself, but saying yes to the things that I would have otherwise in the past said no to myself. And as a result of
Mm.
saying yes to me, I am filled to the brim, not over full. My heart, remember Care Bears? This is like totally
Yes.
dating myself, but the Care Bear stare, where I think it
Yep.
actually comes out of their stomach, the sparkles and things. So it's like I'm Care Bear staring out of my heart. It's so full now.
Oh, okay. This is beautiful. I think that's a beautiful kind of visual of it too. The
Yeah,
Care Bear stare and how much that
like
feels like
mountains.
inside. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I was all about Care Bears, so I
Oh
gotcha.
my God. Yeah.
Ah, that is good. That's so good.
It's so good facing everything and rising, because so often we look at fear as this thing to make us smaller, right? But how
Mhm.
might it be present to give us messages to actually help us grow?
Yeah.
And the more that I have those vulnerable conversations, the more that I am, in the words of Donna Markova, willing to risk my significance. Here I am. I mean,
Mm,
think of a seed poking its little seed head out of its shell. You know, that is like the biggest freaking risk, especially when we care that deeply about what we're saying yes to. I don't want to mess up, right?
yeah.
So, yeah,
So
risking
this
my
is your good. This is your good right now, is like let's do all the things that I'm afraid of, and like let's find those places and actually just say yes to them.
yes, saying yes to me, essentially. And in the past, I am
Mm,
very much an Enneagram 2. So most of my life, I've been saying yes to everyone else but myself. And now realize that in order to truly say yes to anyone or anything, it's got to come here first. And before, I wouldn't say that out loud. That's selfish, right? No, no,
mhm.
no.
Yeah.
That's self-full. We need to
Yes.
show up from a place of a well that is full, well of being,
Yeah.
right? So that is
Yeah.
my good. And I appreciate you being curious.
Yeah. I love that you said that, a well of being, because you think of the word well-being, a
Yeah.
well of being, like so clever. That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Right.
That's
And going to
beautiful.
the lake is filling my well. I mean, when I am
Yeah.
outside, when I am surrounded by all of this
Yeah.
and that unlimited blue overhead.
Yeah. Well, and the way that it's so easy, I think, as a parent, and I think especially when kids are really small, like it's easy to be lost in those sorts of things.
Mhm.
And so that's very
Yes.
much like the Enneagram 2 sort of mentality of like
Mhm.
service
Mhm. Right.
and caretaking. But that can look like, I mean, that can go to job land, that can go to friends and family, that
Right.
can go lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And so what it looks like to really say, okay, what does my well of being look like? And to not, like, a self-sacrifice looks like there's a careful line there to
Mhm.
serving others is really beautiful thing. And when we're feeling down and we're feeling like we're not enough, like you get out and like serve somebody, you feel better.
Mhm.
Like there
Yeah.
is a thing for that, but there's also like too much, like everything. There's
Mhm.
too much
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
then you're forgotten in it
Right.
and then you can't keep going.
Mhm. Right.
So
Yes, exactly. It's like you were speaking of what you just released when, what are those times where I'm not responsible for anyone but me?
mhm,
And when I have those opportunities, because I'm holding space
yeah,
pretty much every day too, which is a blessing. Thank you. Thank you,
yeah,
universe, for these opportunities. And when I have opportunities to only be responsible for me, I am going to do everything in my power to fill that well.
yeah. You're going to
Mhm.
the lake.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah. So
Gorgeous.
thank you for your reminders and your example too, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you. So tell me, what has been good learning for you recently?
Good learning. Well, it goes hand in hand with, because this risking my significance in ways and saying yes to myself when I would have otherwise said no is learning the growth, right? It's like a potted plant or a seed, right? That stays like
Mhm.
this. I'm learning what happens when I am willing to say yes. I am learning
Yeah.
new neural pathways in my mind. I am learning new ways to treat my body. I am learning new ways to communicate with others. I'm learning new ways to receive. Well, I'm learning to receive, right? As a result of all of this. And I feel like I'm in kindergarten again.
Yeah.
The learning that is transpiring as a result of, okay, this scares me. And there could be really valuable information there too, right? Maybe this
Yeah.
is something that I don't need in my life anymore, right? So I'm really learning how to listen to the messages of my fear, right? And facing everything and
Mm,
rising can mean facing it and saying goodbye, right? To the extent I actually wrote a letter to fear last week, right?
okay.
So I am learning from my fear. And years ago, anxiety has been prevalent in my life, the experience of anxiety for, I mean, since I've had a memory. And years ago, I named her. Her name is Maleficent, right? And so I haven't designated a name to the label of fear yet, right? Maybe that's coming. But I wrote a letter to fear last week and saying how, hey, let's be partners, right? I'm not going to leave you. I know you're not going to leave me. What can we learn from each other? So that's my learning.
I think it's really a beautiful idea of embracing those pieces that feel like, oh, I wish I didn't have this thing, or that it feels like a sticky relationship with you. Like, actually, what happens if I just say, oh, okay, this is part of how I'm thinking. This is like kind of part of how I'm operating. What if I say, okay, this is part of actually my day. So let's just like maybe let's be a little bit easier with that. Let's stop resisting it and say, okay, how do we roll together?
Yes. Yeah. Like you said, how can I make this moment better?
Yeah. So I would love to hear just a brief moment then too on when you say you're practicing receiving, how does it feel to receive?
Whew. Well, it's actually been an intention for many years. And it's like practicing anything. It's like practicing yoga, practicing the guitar, working out. Like the more we flex the muscle, whether it's the courage muscle or the compassion muscle or the patience muscle or the receiving muscle, the easier it gets. And I'll share with you the moment that the concept of receiving changed for me, that has been the reason for my practice of receiving, that is finally becoming a joyful act. And years ago, when I was starting my small business, Great Abiding Yoga, a dear friend of mine had just finished a coaching program, and she had a certain number of hours to help out pro bono to complete her certification. And she reached out to me because she knew that I was making this leap and leaving the elementary school teaching classroom and following my Dharma. So she said, let me help you. And I said, that was in and of itself like, no, I have to pay you for this, right? It's like part of her freaking certification, and so every time we met, I would bring her a gift, whether it was a drawing, whether it was a photograph, whether it was something that I felt that she would enjoy, and she would receive every time. And throughout our time together, there were a few times where she threw me, we labeled close to my leaving the classroom and starting my business, my illumination day. And she planned a whole night for me with like candles and sparkles and celebration and lanterns to release intentions. And I resisted. I said, I don't deserve this. You've already done so much for me. And she said, look, every single time you come to me to have our sessions, you bring me gifts. I receive them wholeheartedly with my heart. How does that make you feel when I receive that part of you that comes from what I know you're passionate about? And I said, yeah, it makes me feel so good. I mean, it makes me feel worthy, right? And she said, so when I come to you and I want to give you this gift and you're not willing to receive it, why would you want to take that away from anyone else? So in that moment, I realized receiving is a gift to the giver.
It is.
And that was the seed.
Yes. I have learned that as well. That is like receiving is something that I have definitely learned and am in practice of. And I think I feel like it's something that has given me more balance or given me more perspective of balance and made me recognize like how I operate and what that looks like for my own kind of existence too.
Right.
So.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So what was It's another part of the Donna Markova poem. What was planted as seed can then come to blossom, can then come to fruit, right? And so I feel that I've been in this place of practicing cultivating so that I can blossom, and now experiencing the fruit. I mean, it is so humbling, the amount of love that I receive in so many forms every day, and receive, right? And know that I am giving that gift to whomever is sending it to me in what form. And then
Yeah.
I'm able to show up that much more to give, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
just it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. So if people
Thank
want to
you.
reach out and say hello to you, can they look up Great Abiding Yoga?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Great Abiding Yoga, greatabidingyoga.com. I am, yes, thank you so much for holding this space and providing this opportunity for me to say yes.
You are so welcome. Have a wonderful time at the lake, releasing and filling.
I will, Bonnie. Thank you for this opportunity again, and have a wonderful time with all of these beautiful souls waiting in the waiting room.
Yeah. Thank you. See you.
See you.
Okay. Mm. As we are here back in the main room, and that is Tara, who has just left us. So you can find Great Abiding Yoga on Instagram or as a website and connect with Tara there. And I think it really is such a beautiful thing, like that idea of giving and of receiving. And I do have that experience for my own self of, I say a lot of that does show up in relationships, and how much I realize that I love to give, and how it feels like a gift to me to be able to give to others. And I think that that's a really, that's good learning. That's good learning. And I think it's good learning because I know the times that I have not done that very well, or I haven't known how to allow other people to give to me, or I've resisted it. And how much the resistance is like a clenching, and it is a tight fist, and smashing things, right? When we grip things so tightly that we are crushing them. And like that crush, it doesn't allow any space. And just like a little bit of openness lets go of some of the resistance. And it's not easy. It's like everything's a practice. Yeah. Mm. uh, Tara was referencing the podcast, most recent podcast from uh, the last quickie. So this that was just posted about holding space for your experience, and how often we hold space for other people's experience. It doesn't matter whether you're a yoga teacher or not, but just how we hold space for other people's experiences often. And when do we set that down and just hold space for our own experience? And so maybe if you're listening, like, what is that place that drops you into a state of mind that feels like freedom? And for me, I do find that at the ocean. And this morning I took a walk and sat against George the tree. That George the tree lives around the corner from here, a giant red sequoia. And I'm always amazed at, it mostly, is in nature. And I'm amazed at how quickly I feel so much more well. a well of being. To feel that, and how quickly I feel that as I step outside and away from the things in the house and the to-dos and the computer and the work and the responsibilities of caretaking of children or things, and just listen and observe and allow myself to show up however I want. And I'm amazed at in those times at how quickly I feel like recalibrated. But I guess I find that also in creativity. So maybe wherever you're currently at, you're like, well, I can't go to the ocean. There's no forest close to me. Maybe those places don't feel safe to you. Maybe you're quarantining again, right? Maybe there's a lot of devastation in our world. Maybe it's really like there's a lot of ways that it might not be possible. And I know that other ways that I find it for myself, find that way of bringing myself back to the well of being. I just really love that phrase, right? Because like the well of being this, something that can be filled up and filled up however we want. But something that also does that for me is finding a tap into creativity. And I think that, whether that is something you do with food, something you do with paper, they can look like a lot of different things. But for me, I find like painting, I find cooking, I find like even caretaking with my plants, like doing something that is not having to provide a sort of result that of anything. I don't know. Just you have to find something. This is what it is. Where's something you can go, or something that you can do, where you truly feel like you have nothing to prove. I think of that often, like you have nothing to prove here. I think of that when I am coaching other people. They have nothing to prove to me. Like you come exactly as you are, you have nothing to prove. But at the same time, we do feel that in the world where we have to prove something and have to show up and be something. And so, where is it in your life that you feel like you have nothing to prove? And how often do you let yourself be in that space? And how much does it add to your well of being? I saw this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert today saying, "What do you love doing so much that the words failure and success essentially become irrelevant?" What do you love doing so much that the words failure and success essentially become irrelevant? Which really means that like it's demand free. Like you don't have to show up and prove anything. It's like it doesn't matter if you fail or succeed. Like failure and success are I'm showing up just for the hell of it, just because it feels good, just because this adds to my well of being. Yeah. I think when we show up and feel like we have something to prove, that's when it becomes easy to judge others. And it becomes easy to think that we know what others are doing and maybe forget to expect the best. Because we feel like we're going to be judged. If we think, and that's because if we think that we're going to be judged and we have something to prove, then other people must have something to prove, which means there's going to be a rating. And it's like my own business running my own business and doing things, like, am I looking for 5 stars? Right. I go onto Amazon. I'm like, oh, well, how many stars does this item actually have? And are you going to choose the item that has 3 stars or the 4.5 stars? Which item on Amazon do you choose? You want the one that's proven, that's like the 4.5. You're like, okay, well, 5,000 people have gotten that one versus like the 380 people who got the 3 star one. So I'm going to go with the one that more people have bought and there's more stars. And we're not looking to be starred. I guess let me reframe that. I'm not looking to be starred. I'm not looking to prove anything. I am not out to encourage anybody else to feel like they have to have a starred rating. Do I want people to like me? Sure. Does everybody have to like me? No. And there's a lot of freedom as a person, as a teacher, as just a human being on this planet to be like, not everybody's going to like me. And that's okay. And actually, it's pretty fantastic because that means I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be the best me I possibly can. And whoever feels like they can connect with those parts of me, then that's who I want. And that's who I want in my life. And that's whose life I want to be in, is those people that show up in that same way. And that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun then to have those people that are really there to not have to prove anything. And sometimes people jump in and want to prove things to you or don't want to prove things to you. Or I don't know, there's like, well, not that don't, but you can feel it. You can feel it when people approach you with the feeling of them trying to prove something. At least I can feel that. And I'm not here to make you prove anything. I'm not here to prove anything. And maybe I've said it too many times, but I was talking with a friend last night, and she had said how in the Bay Area, when she's made some friends down there, that it's a lot of work because people there that using this exact word, she uses this exact word, that people there feel like they have to prove themselves, or you have to prove that you are going to show up, prove that you're going to like be a friend, prove that you're going to be the business person, that you have to prove it to each other, and how much work it is to be in that culture, and some of those friendships being some work because and in the conversations that she's had with these people about like talking about a specific thing, and they're like, well, it's just like what you do, like this is how it works. So in my head I'm like, well, that's not real life, but that is real life for people. Just like it's also not my life that my house is being bombed, but that's real life for some people. It's also not my life that I'm houseless, but that is some people's life. It's not my life that I currently have cancer in my body, but that's some people's life. And yeah, I think the fatigue that can come from having to prove things, and maybe there's pieces of the online world that make us feel like that too. I've actually been having this idea. You're getting all my random ideas. There's been people popping in. So just give you a heads up. There's been people popping in and out of the waiting room while I was talking to Tara, but now currently nobody is here. So this is an experiment. So welcome to Experiment Land. When somebody else pops in there, we will say hello to them. But in the meantime, now you have me. I'm going to tell you something that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about Instagram and thinking about the difference between posts and stories, and how when I share my stories, it's like off the cuff, it's random. It's going to be about, I don't know, the cat, or dancing before my workout, or something that my kids and I are doing, or some flowers, or something silly, or something shared from another person's account, something, some words that I feel connected to. I don't know. There's so many random things, and how it becomes like the stories have become like this. Um, I don't know, this kind of more real life, spur of the moment sort of adventure, and how, if you look at somebody's feed, it becomes like the poster. I had this thought last night or this morning. I can't remember which. Close enough. It's like, what would happen if I just took even a whole day and said, okay, anytime I have an idea where I'm thinking about something, I'm just going to make a post about it. And maybe this is a funny thing to say out loud, but I don't think it, I don't know. It's fine. I don't care. I think like the editing that we do of the stories or images, or the way we share things. And, I never expected to be sharing all that I do, but what would happen, or what would the experience be like, even just for myself? I'm like, other people will have the experience that they have. I can't control that. But what would the experience be like for me to actually just be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to put up a post, and then like let it like just live, and put up as many posts during the day where I have ideas, rather than be like, okay, I did my one post, like I'm good, or two posts, or whatever I'm gonna do for the day. That actually, anytime I had a thought, rather than sticking it in my stories, what if my feed was like more current time? And just this thought process of the way that we show up. And I was talking to another friend who found out yesterday that she does not have cancer in her bones. And I had gone in for a bone biopsy on earlier this week. And as I was talking to her, she's like, I want to know where people's, like, the grit of people. She didn't use that word, but I want to know the grit. I want to know the things that they're not saying. Like, where's the hard stuff? Like, there's so much hard stuff out there that we're all dealing with, that we all don't say. And she's like, this is so hard for me right now. And I feel so alone. Like, I feel like I'm not the normal one, and everybody else is normal humans. And I told her how, I run Flow School, where I work with yoga teachers, and we talk about biomechanics, body biomechanics, and sequencing yoga classes, and why and how to build to a peak flow. And it's a really beautiful thing, because it allows people the exploration to reconnect to the practice as teachers. And as we go through these sorts of things. Actually, now I lost my train of thought. Great. Now I've lost my train of thought. I was talking about Novi. Why did I bring up Flow School though? Damn it. Mm. Oh, I know what I was talking about now. Thank you for listening through that pause. As I was telling my friend, I run Flow School, and Flow School has, it costs money to join and to go through the thing, but I have a scholarship, and the scholarship is fill in the blank. And I say, tell me why you want to join, and tell me what you can afford. And she's talking to me, my friend, who just found out that she doesn't have cancer in her bones. And she's saying, I just feel like I'm like, who am I in this world? And there's nobody else like me. And this is all so hard. And everybody else has like, they're having a good time. And I told her, I was like, well, maybe, maybe we just aren't talking about like the hard. And, when I get these scholarships for flow school, I'm constantly so grateful for people's trust in me to share what they share. And whether them or other people in their other private messages or emails about their own current life situations and the way that things are complicated and difficult, and the way that everybody is navigating them and not saying all the things, or not saying all the things out loud, and how we're all having some sort of struggle of sorts, and how we often don't share all those things. Maybe with close friends we do, and that's okay too. We don't have to be broadcasting publicly like all of our things, but the way that it can make us feel less alone when we do. Okay, this is adventure time, babes. I know there was a couple other people who wanted to jump in on this. Hello. I'm just going to take a pause. If you're watching this live, hello. Welcome to Experiment Land. I have decided that a while ago, I decided that calling everything an experiment let me attach to it less securely. Let's rephrase that. I decided a while ago that by calling everything an experiment, it released and releases any sort of anxiety around the outcome of the adventure. And by releasing any sort of solid outcome, it allows the experiment to flow and morph into something that maybe I would be forcing it a certain direction. And there can be a general direction of sorts that we might want to take, but letting there be a lot of wiggle room and letting things kind of sort themselves out, because I think sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And letting something being experiment, saying like, well, let's call this an experiment and try this thing. And if the definition of success is really solid, then that may or may not be difficult. I don't know. But if the definition of success is that you try something and you see what happens, then I win. And I like winning. Random note. When, oh man, this is so many years ago, but there was a time when, just before I had kids, I mean, my oldest kid is 15 now. So before I had kids, and I was with my kid's dad, and we played is that one summer we were living in New Mexico, and we played the card game Skippo and Phase 10 like every night and did multiple rounds. Like, no joke, for over a month. I won every single game. Every single game. I do not know how that's possible. I probably lost though, and I might have thrown my cards. More just because it was like, there's a long winning streak. But it's never happened again. So I don't know what was up with that time. But that was my biggest winning streak I've ever had. In case, you wanted to know. Peeps. It's where if I played music, I could do a little jam out session on the guitar or piano, but I don't have any set up for that. Hmm. Live on YouTube.